it's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply, everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger, next to C. Kramer Interiors, and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You could visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. Chris was joking. He's been floored today. Pun intended.
Yes.
Yes.
It was intended.
It's a nice mustard shirt you got on there.
Yellow.
That's sunshine, man.
Is that sunshine? What color is that? It's the big horsey, not one of those little horsey ones.
It's a little horse. That's what she's. No.
Oh, jeez.
That's a Shetland pony on there. This is like for the tiny people polo.
That's funny.
Are we just really far away from them? No, they're just tiny. Okay, we were going to talk about flooring today. That's why Chris was floored.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say that, or ask, is wood floor gone?
No.
Was putting in wood floors gone? Like actual wood, not like...
No, we have a project going right now that the wood is on site.
Wow.
Going to
3/4 or engineered?
3/4.
Unfinished or pre-finished?
Unfinished.
Wow.
Doing it right.
Is that how you do it?
Got a thumbs
Chris,
up.
Got a thumbs up from Chris. Why is that, Chris? Why do you give that a thumbs up? Like, what is that? What does that mean to you when you hear
Premium.
that?
It's the best floor. It's a lifetime floor.
It's a generational floor.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, right? Because they're floors that are hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
And when you say unfinished, why wouldn't you get it pre-finished?
Well, the pre-finish typically doesn't. It just looks different.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look as rich because the way it goes together, everything. It's got to do with the process. So when you put in an unfinished flooring goes down, and then they have what's called a slurry, which is glue and shavings that goes over the floor, and then it gets sanded. Well, that fills everything in it. It's super nice and tight because it doesn't matter what floor you're putting in, you're going to have small gaps. And so that slurry fills it all in, and it just, it looks like one solid floor. Yet you can still see the pieces of floor,
right?
But it just.
So a pre-finished floor, none of that is happening. You're just putting in the floor, and the gaps
it's got
exist.
The finishing. There's going to be some small gaps, and typically it's not a sharp edge. Typically, it's got some sort of a bevel of some sort, whether it's just like a little pencil edge or a V groove where it goes together, which just is something else for your eye to go to.
Well, it's also designed to. Isn't that groove designed to? What I want to say, hide.
Yeah.
I don't want to say mistakes. It hides the imperfections.
Yeah.
So in a pre-finished. Okay, so in my mind, though, honestly, I thought it was like a pre-finish is probably better because then you have
It has there
are advantages to it for sure.
It has a typically considered a stronger finish,
mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's in a controlled environment, probably, right?
And then they probably use
a lot of times it's catalyzed or it has like different particles because of how it's applicated, and so. It will be harder. Like when they go in to sand a pre-finished floor, typically they plan on going through a number of belts because that finish will tear up the belts a lot quicker.
Oh, really?
Because it is harder.
It's hard to get off. It's very difficult to sand through.
Oh, so if you're like redoing a pre-finished hardwood, all wood floor, that finish is more.
Typically, it's harder.
It's harder.
I guess harder is the word. I guess. Yeah. Okay. But the look is a little different because the edging, like it's not like a basketball court
Right.
Boy, I'm aging myself. There are no more wooden basketball courts, are there? I don't think. But
What are they?
I mean, they are, but they're put down in giant squares.
Not the old.
Not the old ones, but like new basketball courts are not like, they don't go in there and like lay planks.
Oh, interesting.
They're giant. They're giant square. Simply because most basketball courts now are designed to be taken off.
Right.
But so you're saying like if you see a pre-finished one, there's kind of a look like a beveled edge or a penciled edge.
Yeah.
Because it's making up for if they can't get super tight.
Right.
But the floor that you're putting down is not pre-finished, so it's going to go in, it's going to get sealed, and it's a different look.
Yeah. It's your classic hardwood floor.
Right, and that's the best. It is the best. It is the warmest.
Are they? Can you still get oil for the finish coat?
I mean, you can.
A lot of it's water based now.
You can still get pretty much anything. It's just, I mean, that's going to be more expensive just because there's not near as much of it.
Well, I thought there was some.
I want to say there's some regulations on that.
But to me, the oil gives it the oil urethane gives it a little more mellow.
Yeah.
Finish on the wood itself.
I think Chris is right. I think oil, if you're getting a hold of it, it's not the same as it was before. My daughter's finished. She had a choice. And they steered her away from oil, not necessarily because of cost. It was a little bit more expensive, but it wasn't like they steered her away from it because her flooring people felt like it's not the new, they liked water-based at this moment.
Better than the
oil. Because it's different. And it could be just they didn't know what they were doing. Well, or that could
things
be.
change. I mean, formulas change because when years ago when I did oil, the oil had kind of an umber coloration to it. So when you put it on the floor, it gave the floor a richness.
Exactly. Yes.
Whereas water-based doesn't have that.
Right. They were saying their coloring mix is different when they use the water than when they use the oil. I can't remember the reason, but they were going to do it. It does, that the all wood, and that's what they put down was all wood. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what was down in their house was not veneer, wood. And when they refinished it, they didn't put down all wood floor. I'm like, that would be as much as their house cost. The wood was already there. But they had a conversation about oil versus water, and they determined that water at this moment, or the water-based one at this moment,
well, there's just so many different variations with the water base, too. There's so many more things you can do with it for like high traffic or just different formulas for what you can. Yeah. So
but nothing beats that hardwood. It's just different, Well,
and the benefit, I think, of water-based is it dries more quickly than oil. Because oil, you had to wait like 24 hours in between coats.
And if you're living there, or gonna, that's
the downside is when you're refinishing a floor is if you're trying to live there, you may as well be on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really can't. Well, they told them, you can't occupy the house while this stuff's coming down. Because the fumes are not.
That's the downside. Whereas a pre-finished floor, you put it in and you're using it right away.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's benefits, but in the long run, what you're paying for with a hardwood floor is that one of the main things is that that floor is going to be there.
Yeah.
And you can change it how many times?
Oh.
Many times.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if it's 3/4, many. If you wanted to.
You can probably about a third of it sand down.
Right.
Which is a lot of sanding.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't do that every year.
No.
So you do it every 20 years.
Maybe.
And that's only if you want a different look. Right.
Or if it had a lot of use and needs to be.
Well, even with a lot of use, as long as it didn't get through the color, you can go back with with a good buffing and then recoat
without having to sand.
Sand it, because we're actually going to be doing that on a project here coming up.
So when you rebuff it, you're not taking anything off the surface.
You're
not-
taking a very tiny
yeah,
amount.
like-
It's basically smoothing out the finish so that it can be recoated, and then that takes all of the scratches and the dents that were in the finish out, so that it looks like a brand new.
It just and it mellows the tough ones.
Yeah,
Because maybe you can't. There might be a couple that are.
but if
deeper.
it starts wearing through the actual stain that was on the floor, the color on
Then
the
that's
floor,
weird.
that's when you're going to have to take it down. And
Right. And stain penetrates a little bit. I mean, it's not like stain's just on the surface. It gets into the wood.
right, yeah, it has to. Otherwise, it's not sand.
Right. It would just be gone. It was really intriguing, though, that I didn't realize that there was a slurry on the floor that's unfinished, which it does kind of like, oh, okay. Now I'm going to have to pay attention to that.
You can't pick that up with your eye.
Oh,
Once
really?
it's sanded, you can't pick it up.
Huh.
It just
Slurry.
looks, yeah.
Well, when we come back, let's go to the next best thing than wood for your floor, which could be, well, we'll tell you when we come back.
Yeah.
This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger, right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And floors are what we're talking about. We're talking about solid wood floors last segment, and how, the opinion here is that's the best.
If you have
Is that an opinion? I thought we were stating facts.
one benefit of the hardwood floors is if you're trying to. I worked on projects where there was existing hardwood and we took out tiled and added new hardwood, and we had to match the old with the new and make it seamless.
Right.
And Hoosier Hardwood came in, sanded, finished, and you could not tell the old from the new.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's like magic.
And the client was blown away because they were like, there's no way they're going to be able to pull this off.
And was that coming from a point where it was like damaged, or
Nope. They
You're
had
just adding
just
to it.
adding to it?
they had a tile floor in the kitchen that was awful. No, it was not. It was like a saltillo, which was not even.
What's saltillo? I don't know what that is.
That's you see it in Southwest, the clay,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're not level.
You're right. It's like
So
cobble.
it was in their kitchen.
Awesome.
And anyway, we took it out and put in hardwood, and we had to match it to the rest of the house because it all tied together, and you could not tell the difference.
And it's hard to get that on a different floor.
They matched the size of the plank, the finish, everything. So it was amazing when it was done. Absolutely seamless.
I mean, basically, if you have a hardwood floor, you have options for the life of the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, what sort of boils down to?
Well, because we could not have gone out and purchased a pre-finished floor
that-
to match it. It would
No.
That
never
would never
work.
work.
Right. That you can't. Right, because man-made never replicates.
No,
nature.
and who knows? Like after like a handful of years, stuff gets discontinued or modified
Colors
a little bit. Yeah.
change.
Right.
Even lot number to lot number
Mhm.
can vary enough that it's like, well, that doesn't even really look the same.
That's why you got to lay it all out. Like
Yeah.
you can't just open a box and
Yeah.
work out of one box on.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to make sure you have a variety of boxes open,
Yeah.
or else you could run into that problem.
But that to me, that's just another advantage of solid hardwood.
Yeah. It also sounds better, right? I mean, the acoustics are better on hardwood. It's not as loud as some other, harder or less porous.
Yeah. Wood's great.
The case in point, of my brother's house has one room that I don't know why they did this, but there's a luxury vinyl, and it looks nice for the sake of the room. But in his main house, not the addition, it's all hardwood that's 100 years old, and the difference in sound, I'm telling you, is like,
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, when you go from hardwood to luxury vinyl, that's gonna definitely be different.
It's just short of echoey. It's not like impossible, but you can definitely tell it's like, there's,
It's definitely a sharper sound.
Yeah, and to the other room's defense is that one's plaster, and then the addition's sheetrock, so that's also a little quieter, I think. Am I wrong?
I'm just curious as to why they didn't carry hardwood in there. Is there a reason?
Yes, my brother's cheap. He didn't want the addition anyway. I mean, it's a long story.
Oh.
He might have got.
He's just making a point.
He was making a point, right?
This is going to be as cheap as possible.
That's right. It's kind of funny. It's no, there's television in there, but it's like a utility room that you can sit in. It
looks
that's
like
why.
an add-on then instead of
The outside doesn't. They did a great job on the outside.
But the inside doesn't flow with the rest of the original.
I'd make fun of them. I'm like, is that a dentist office in there? Did you add on where's the, because it has
funny.
like a very
now that would drive me crazy.
dentisty feel.
I'd have to go in there and change it. It has to, no. No.
And it is
That's
a beautiful house.
I'm sure.
On the other sides of it. But that room's not.
Everywhere except there.
Like the closed-in porch is a better room. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's more fun to hang out there than it is in that room.
Yeah, that room sounds cold.
When I go home, coming up, I'm gonna take a picture. They have the best vanity. It's from the 40s, and it is so cool.
Original 40s?
Original.
See, stuff like that's really cool.
Oh my goodness! It is Art Deco.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's so cool. And I meant to take a picture when I was there last time, but the vanity is so neat. And my sister-in-law was gonna, remodel that bathroom, and she just couldn't.
Well, yeah.
Couldn't
At
do
this
it.
point, it's like classic.
Yeah. It's so cool. And it does have that like little weird pink fleshy color tile, that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But she put a paint. I can't remember the paint. I'm a little colorblind, so it's like but the room, she just found a paint that made it work, and it was really cool. But and it's a tiny little powder room, but you walk in there and it's like 1940.
That's cool.
That is
my
cool.
goodness! And it's the bathroom right off the addition, which is really funny because it does not fit. It's like wow. It's like you walk from, clinical dentist office into something that people would pay
big money for.
Big money for it. The faucet comes out of the vanity, so there's no
out of the vanity.
Yeah, it's so cool. It was clearly a piece made for that room.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's pretty neat. The tile is all round too. It's like,
yep.
It's just so neat. And
I'm glad she kept it.
Yeah. I think she put her foot down.
Your brother wanted to run luxury vinyl in there too.
He would have.
Up the walls, on the ceiling.
Yeah.
He would have.
That's.
He was. I just on an aside. We're talking about flooring on Measure Twice, but let me give you a side. So he's the guy that has the 2 giant commercial air conditioners in his house, like upstairs and downstairs, so you can hang meat, like if you wanted to in there. And his bathroom, he didn't like the water pressure, so he got an assisted system. So you could like power wash in his shower. Like you can remove, if you wanted to, you could remove
You're not getting
paint.
paint off his stuff, huh?
I'm not
Or
kidding.
skin.
Yeah.
you could draw blood in his showers. Like the guest shower, you're like trying to figure out how to like.
You brace yourself or it'll knock you over.
Oh yeah. It pushes the shower curtain out. It creates so much air, because it's, they had to they have
these little weighted
a system to keep it in there.
Oh my word.
That's really funny. But at any rate, he's got taste in other stuff. We'll keep you posted. Okay, what's second place for flooring?
From hardwood?
Yeah, if you're going from hardwood, what's like the next
would you say? Well, we talked about there's pre-finished hardwood, and then there's engineered floors.
Engineered floored.
And typically engineered is pre-finished.
Yeah, and it's just has a man-made backing.
And what's the advantage of that, though? Because it
is structurally, it's more stable. So you can use it in basements. You can put heat under it.
So there's
Typically,
some
you're
advantages.
not putting heat under
Hardwood.
hardwood. It will.
Mm.
That's no bueno.
It's not going to work.
No,
Well, why can you put it under that floor? Because it's still wood on top.
because it is engineered is basically it's plywood underneath it, so it doesn't move. I mean, it's going to move a little bit, but it does not move like hardwood would, and it won't. Yeah, I believe that the heat would dry out your 3/4 too, and that can cause some issues.
Yep.
Right.
Warping, crack.
Right.
And I could see it. Yeah.
Serious checking in it.
Yep.
But you can refinish, right?
Some of them.
Some
of them. If you get a good engineered floor, you can get a number of sandings out of it, which is still going to be a lifetime easily.
So what should somebody look for? Like if they're doing that, is there a difference
to do
in
with
grade?
The mill of the veneer.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like they should. Is there a standard number and then like a more expensive and then a less expensive number?
I mean, I'd go to Hoosier Hardwood and talk with them about it.
There's definitely a price difference between the different levels of veneer thickness.
And generally, it's the thickness of the veneer that's causing that. I'm sure the backing, like if you get a sound backing or something, like that's designed to be quieter underneath, I guess. But generally,
typically your engineered woods, you're nailing down or gluing down anyway. So the sound is going to be more based off of the thickness of the actual plank itself.
That's what I was saying. Like it might be
not just the veneer, but the overall.
But generally, the price is based on that thickness of the veneer. Maybe the wood that's on the veneer. Can you get any wood you want on that? Well, when we come back, let's find out about that. We're running out of...
Okay.
Because we made fun of my brother for...
Yes.
We'll be right back. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and we're being listened to on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger. Next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We were talking about flooring, so that's a nice little segue. Went from hardwood to engineered hard. What is the actual name of engineered?
It's an engineered hardwood.
Hardwood. And the benefits of that. But you can change the color of that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
On a good one.
And so you can like sand it down at some point 25 years from now or whatever.
Right.
And redo it. But my question was, before we left, I wanted to ask, can you get different woods, or is it all just basically pine or?
No, you can different.
It's any wood, because you can make a veneer out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get, I don't know why I'm thinking bamboo. I think bamboo's gone, right? Like, I don't know if
that's not a thing really anymore.
But you could get whatever.
As a Chris.
Chris.
Too many people were getting punched in the throat.
He was like, you can't live with
it. It
bamboo.
was a thing for a while.
Oh yeah, it was hot.
Well, it is a miracle wood. It grows every second.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to replenish, I guess.
1,000 acres just grew in the 20 minutes we're down there.
Yeah.
That's true. You ever see the scaffolding they make out of bamboo in Asia?
Yeah.
And it's 15 stories or something like that. And it's just, whoa. Like, my God. But it's moving.
Well, they did it for a while because, I think you can still get it, but it's the most renewable source.
Right. So that just made sense.
Yeah.
But what's the most common flooring wood?
Oak.
And second place would be pine?
Maple, maybe?
Maple?
Ash, maybe? You can't. It's harder to get ash anymore, though.
Because of the ash borer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fewer trees?
Fewer.
I mean, there for a little while, like
Ash.
15 years ago, 20 years ago, a lot of hickory was going in.
Oh, yeah, hickory. And then there was some cherry, and then or Brazilian cherry, the really red stuff.
And is this, people aren't doing their whole floor with this, right? They're probably using some of these more exotics to do an accent or something like that.
No.
Right?
They would do like
the
a
whole
whole
thing?
floor.
They would do a whole floor.
But essentially, oak is, you get oak
it's
and then you
king
make it
for
whatever
sure, yeah.
color
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to get a
And
different
it's,
wood.
and it's typically, well, ash is harder than oak. White oak is harder than red oak. So, but it's probably other than maple, and hickory, those are all really super hard woods. If you have dogs, hickory's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it's super,
Super hard, and
Yeah.
it doesn't show the scratches,
right.
claws.
But basically, you're making a decision based on what lifestyle. Like if you have a dog, you probably
You think some of these things through. Cherry is
Right.
super soft.
Yeah.
maple too, right? Or is maple
Maple's
hard
It's
too?
hard maple.
There's hard maple.
And that's right there with oak.
Yeah. Cherry is so soft that a woman's high heels can cause divots in
Really?
the cherry. Mm-hmm.
It feels like that would also be, well, it must have its own look, right? Because,
It does.
you would hate to you could have oak for a certain price, but then get this wood just because it's that wood. And it looks exactly the same.
Walnut was popular for a little bit. That's a beautiful floor. Walnut.
So expensive.
It is. It's crazy expensive.
But it does look cool.
Oh, man. I love walnut.
And one of my favorites is quarter sawn oak
Yeah.
floors.
You're gonna have to explain quarter sawn oak.
It looks
Or
like
quarter sawn.
tiger.
What that
It
means.
looks like a tiger print, almost. Quarter
Because
sawing is just the way it's
Cut.
milled.
Yep.
So it's you cut a quarter of the oak and then it's milled a certain direction. Rift is a different direction.
Love rift.
what does rift look like?
It's just straight grain.
And no cathedral arches, or just very clean looking.
We just did a cabinets for a bathroom in that, and it looks good. Looks real good.
I love rift. I would classify it as a little more contemporary look as far as wood is
So
concerned.
they cut it in a way that you can't see the waves of the grain.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all
A lot of
straight
guys.
grain.
A lot of guys say it's just the trash off of oak, but it's not really. It's got to do with the way it was cut.
Trash. I think it's better. It's good looking stuff.
Yeah.
And it's called rift.
Yeah. Rift sawn.
Sawn.
I'm gonna look that up right now.
It's actually it's more expensive than
Quarter.
Oh, I see.
quarter sawn.
Okay.
Because it's harder you get less in the cut.
Is it me or do they make a lot of shelves cut that way?
No.
No.
I've seen paneling out of rift. I've seen furniture. Maybe not furniture, but cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe cabinet. Oh, I see what you're saying. So yeah, it looks like, if I were to describe it, it instead of seeing like cathedrals, you see like the strands.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're like looking at the side of the cathedral almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an MRI
Yeah.
of the sideways. So if you were to take a tree and cut it lengthwise,
Yes.
that's what you're looking at
Yeah.
here.
More or less.
Yeah.
It's just the thing is like I just don't see that being done as a floor.
I don't either, because I don't think it would have any character.
Yeah.
It would all
And
just kind of blend
and
together.
for as expensive as it is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard to get that in 3/4.
I was looking for flooring in that. I only see one option on the internet. Like I look and it's like there's just
I
one.
don't think it would make a good looking floor.
Mm-mm.
Personally.
No, it would be
Quarter sawn wood, but that's also really expensive.
It is expensive.
because you use up more wood
Yeah, there's just
or the way it's got
the
to
way
be.
you
Right.
don't get as much out of it when it's cut.
Quarters. Is that something was quarter sawn something though?
It was very craftsman.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. What period? Like, was there a period where
Craftsman,
that?
even you would see it in like Art Deco and
The arts and crafts movement
Yeah.
brought quarter sawn to the forefront. They used to call it tiger oak because of the riff saw. It's called the riff
There's a
ray flaking. Called ray flaking.
there you go.
Oh yeah, and you're definitely, yeah, you definitely looks like it's got a lot of movement and a lot of character in it.
That's particularly the manufacturer we carry for their arts and crafts. That's all they use is quarter sawn white oak.
Well,
Which is very handsome.
What's really wild is that I'm reading quickly about it that even at a giant manufacturer, they have to stop and mark each tree, whereas on other like normal cutting, they just rip the tree.
Yep.
In this one, they actually have to find. There's only certain parts they can use for quarter sawn.
Yep.
They can only use from the middle, or it looks like the middle, whatever. But it's like in quarters, and then the rest either gets like normal cut or some other cut. But that's why quarter sawn is expensive, because it's the heart of the. Basically, you're only using the heart of the tree. It looks like, but it is neat. Like when it's laid out, it's cool. But they're just, it doesn't get laid down differently. But the manufacturer's different. So that just normal layout, right? It looks like it creates something that's pretty interesting there.
Yeah.
And can you get that in veneer, or does that have to be hardwood?
No,
or does that have to be solid wood?
No, it's not uncommon to get that in a veneer because it's going to be the most price
effective,
friendly.
Yeah, because they can get multiple boards on one tree.
So, like, on your cabinets, a lot of parts of your cabinets are plywood. So, quarter sawn plywood, and because it's the veneer.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah, the plywood to me has become, it's just expensive. But when you go, like me, when I go to like a box store and I'm looking around, there's way more options of plywood than I feel like there were when I was, in my teens getting wood for projects. I feel like
plywood was plywood.
Yeah. Well, but now you can get like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, plywood was plywood back then.
Well,
now it's
you're going to a box store, so they're going to give you options for furniture grade plywoods. So you can get your maples and some of the other furniture grade plywoods there if you want.
Right.
They're going to give you different thicknesses, so depending on what you're doing with it, you're going to get something that's, a BC or an AC or whatever, and that has to do with the sanding and how clean it is on either side of the plywood.
Right. Right. And I guess you're right, because I'm seeing like cedar plywood. Mortgage your house to put that in there. I mean, it's pretty expensive.
It is expensive. I was shocked.
Yeah, that's a large number for just a 4x8 piece of wood. But I get it. There's just it's harder to get to and harder to get out of where it's from and all that stuff. But with flooring, how much of that, when you move from hardwood to veneer, now you're into what? Engineered, but then from engineered, you're in luxury vinyl. You go right to that?
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about a wood look.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're going from hardwood engineered.
I mean, you could go to a tile.
Yeah, because there's tile flooring.
When we come back, let's get into that. But we'll be right back. This is Measured Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with a showroom now opening Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. So the reason why Joel was laughing is because when we get off air, the show continues, but we're not on air. And so I have to admonish them and say, save this conversation for the show. The people want to hear this.
And then we forget what we were talking about.
And then they forget. So I just got to...
We couldn't get back quick enough.
So we're back. And now Chris can't remember what he was going to
No,
say.
I
had asked a question about the LVP because we were talking about the progression. So solid hardwood, engineered. You go to LVP, do you go to tile, plank, whatever, in the wood look.
LVP, luxury vinyl plank.
Correct.
Yeah. And I asked Chris, so do you think that the LVP is a fad?
And I said, no, I don't think so. I think it is overtaking hardwood as the choice, especially in new builds. And I think what's happened is the durability of the water resistance, the non-scratching, is appealing to people who want an easy lifestyle and low maintenance. Whereas hardwood can scratch, it moves, it does different things, but I don't think that we'll see an end to. I think we'll only see more options for it. But
people need to respect themselves more, is what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is it's a choice. I mean, I personally wouldn't want it. And
Right.
it's not because I don't like it. It has its place.
Absolutely.
But I prefer solid wood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my preference. That may not be the next person's preference, but what I'm seeing in the marketplace right now or in new builds is luxury vinyl. And there are instances where I'm thinking, for the price of the house, they should have done wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did they replace that expense with? What upgrade happened over here? Or
Part of the problem is just the cost of new construction. So people are saying, okay, I want the durability. And it gives me the basic look that I'm going for. So and the price point is better.
Yes.
Because it does go in quicker. You don't have the finishing. It
has the transitions sometimes are the issue because you have to have the transition strip,
which are tough on the eyes.
And those things don't hold
or
up.
a step down, a little bit of a slight. It's like,
Yeah, really, your transitions. The little fun fact is you should just buy extra.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because you're going to be replacing them.
But
So
I mean, and again, the luxury vinyl in a commercial space is fantastic. I mean, that's what I think of what it
I'm
was
sure that's what it originally for.
Came out was hospitals use it, things of that nature. It's because it's easy. You don't have to worry about it, and that has now hit the residential marketplace.
And again, it has its places.
Yeah, and like you said,
it's not a terrible, especially the stuff now. You can get some really good looking LVP, which is not
I'm not knocking it because, like I said, I think it does have its place. And there have been instances where I've actually had to touch it
right,
to see if that was actually wood or not.
Well, they've kind of finally figured out that putting that fake grain groove on it was not didn't work.
I think it did work.
The problem was it was too heavy.
Well,
and because you're a hardwood floor when it's finished doesn't have a raised grain.
No.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like I guess that's what I'm saying.
You
what
have
Joel's
to have
saying.
a little bit of a little bit of it so that it.
But they were going a
looks
little
natural.
overboard.
It's going to say, if you don't have it, it looks like plastic.
Yeah.
You have to have some delineation. You have to have some depth to it. Otherwise, it looks just like it's a flat, lifeless.
I get it.
finish.
I think I meant more like Joel. It was like
the first ones that came out that were really super.
Yeah. I was like, well, somebody cut this wood and they didn't do a good job sanding it. That's what it looked like. And then you're right. You have to touch some of them. The house I'm in, I had to really, and then.
But the other problem with it is you can only run so wide and so long before you have to make a break and put a transition. So if you have especially with the design of houses now, these huge wide open spaces, where do you make the break in order to, because what will happen is as it's moving, it will separate itself in certain areas. So that's why it has to have the break.
What do you mean by a break?
Like you will have to put a hard stop, and then a transition, and then continue.
Like in an open room?
It can be.
Yeah.
Depending on the lengths and widths. Most of it has to do with length.
What do you mean? Is this something that's raised?
No, you would just we've had to do it in a hallway before. and I hated it. But it ran because it ran the length of the house, and there had to be it. I think what was going down, was like 100 feet length, and if it got beyond that, you had to stop. It had to stop at that length, put a transition in, and then continue from there.
So did it have a straight line going across the hallway?
Seems
I'm trying to think.
wild.
So I think
That seems crazy. Like, not good on the eye.
the way it worked out was there was a turn in the hall. But yeah, I mean, you're a straight line. It was terrible. I hated it.
Because it will just come apart because there's too many lengths
Right.
put together.
Right.
That's interesting. I never even thought of that. Like, there's a point where the engineers who made that is like, hey, once you have 5 of these in a row, it's not going to work. It's going to come apart.
It'd
or
be a lot
whatever.
more than 5, but yeah.
Whatever. Like there's a
20
certain
of them or whatever.
That's pretty. That's pretty neat. But LVP, pretty cost effective, and
It is, and it's not bad looking.
it goes in fast
Right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's ready to go. Right when you're, like it goes down and that's it.
People are living on it as you're putting it in.
Yep.
They're just marching along right next to you while you're doing that.
Keep moving that lawn chair to see you doing it.
I feel like I put one in, and even a Rob could do it. It's not like once I got one of those little automatic cutters for it, it was like that was revolutionary. Yeah. It's kind of cathartic too because you put it in, you're like, oh, look at that! It's like doing a crossword puzzle. Like, oh, look at me. But the other thing you were talking about is tile, but it looks like wood. Or just regular tile.
A wood plank tile. I mean, I love tile, but that also I think is more of a
bad
application.
Bathroom. If you want to look in a bathroom,
yeah,
that's a easy way to do it.
Yeah, and
just tile in general.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been on some projects where it generally for the most part, the whole house is tiled, the floors. I mean, that's fine. That works in like Florida or the Mediterranean, but
it's too cold.
It's just
it's chilly.
Even if you put floor heat under it, it just doesn't feel right.
It doesn't have the warmth that a wood floor has.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I think your exterior house, I think, starts to bleed into that. Like, what's going on outside your house? Like in Florida, you got palm trees and sand,
but you also have a lot more heat. You have winters.
Thanks for listening. This has been Measure Twice.
Podcasts by Federated Media.